Welcome back to Knuckle Busters, Hoonigan's build show that goes more in depth with a lot less hack. Last season, we took a junkyard BMW M3, shoved the LS1 LS3 hybrid engine in it, and made a Pro-Am level drift car. Now we're back with an entirely different project. We're building a standing mile car. For those of you that don't know what that is, it's like a drag car, but instead of stopping at the eighth, quarter, or even the half mile, this is about how fast you can go in 5,280 feet. And since I just received my Class B license, my goal this season is to take a ratty 5th-gen Camaro, stuff in a Duramax diesel, throw a bunch of boost at it, and try my best to propel that to 200 miles per hour. Since I know nothing about diesels, it's going to be one hell of a struggle. But like last season, we're going to bring in some pros to help me finish this build. Let's talk about why we picked the Camaro. Number one, it's got a big engine bay. We spent a lot of time in junkyards measuring different engine bays to see what would fit a big diesel. Big engine bay, big diesel. It works. Number two, strong aftermarket support. This allows us to focus on the swap rather than re-engineer the chassis for the standing mile. Number three, there's a lot of guys running this car. It's been proven, it's been drag raced over the years. We can take everything that they've learned and apply it to this build. All right, let's talk about what we picked up. We've got a 2011 V6 Camaro. It doesn't run. Something's wrong with it. It's not really our style, but kind of is. It's got some damage here and there, and the vinyl over the pinstripes, and metal brake covers to make it look like you have big brakes. We got a little plastic dip on the wheels. We used every bolt and washer for the front lip, which is rubber. Little overspray AutoZone Chameleon paint. Oh yeah, you gotta have carbon fiber on your mirrors. This cover is actually kind of neat, just doesn't belong on this. And the louvers with 17 different bolts that aren't actually attached. I think it's just glued on. Let's take a look at the interior. I don't know what this shape is, but it makes you feel like a race car driver. Then down to this shifter, a Browning shifter, which usually I see like a pistol grip or something. Shifts right straight into your monitor here, which is not attached. There's a lot that we could change, but none of this stuff matters. We can change all of that. That can come out. The real reason we picked this is for this. Look at how wide these strut towers are apart. That is a massive amount of space. Little V6, huge engine bay. It'd be perfect to try to put our diesel engine in. So all this is going to be removed, taken out. You got a good look at the chassis. Now let's talk about our engine. So we've been wanting to do a diesel build for a long time now. What better opportunity to do something unconventional and a bit challenging? So we picked the Chevy Duramax because the Camaro comes with a big Chevy V8, and this is a really big Chevy V8. Simple enough, right? We know there's going to be a lot of challenges with this swap. With the LS, it's lightweight, it's compact. The Duramax is quite the opposite. But we know that diesels can make a lot of power. We're going to take this over to Edelbrock so we can get the power we need to go 200 miles per hour. So we have a plan, and I'm done talking. Let's get started. So now now that we got both engines out, and the Camaro was a little bit harder to get out than I thought. It just kind of got stuck in there. Let's just take a look at what we got going on. All right, so look at the V6. The V6 was actually a lot bigger than I thought, but fairly simple to take out, pretty well packaged, which is crazy because this engine bay is massive. It's really nice because these frame rails kind of bow out a little bit, which we're gonna need all that space we can. Then we also have the rear sump oil pan section, which is gonna be perfect because that's what we need on the diesel. Also a huge trans tunnel. So hopefully we can get this massive engine in here. And you can see just the size difference between this here and that one way over there. The trans is relatively the same. I don't think that's gonna have an issue fitting in there. It's just this stuff here, how wide it is, how tall it is. We're gonna need a massive cowl. So we know fitment is a huge issue. It's our first issue that we're really gonna have to tackle, but we're gonna need a lot more power to get to 200 miles per hour. So before we fit this thing in here, we're gonna have to head to Edelbrock because I have no idea how to do this. Those guys are experts. Do we just go straight to picking that up? Like I turn it on and we walk off camera? Boop, see ya. So we just arrived at Edelbrock. We're here with Matt. Matt, can you tell us what you do for Edelbrock?
Yeah, my name's Matt Gamble. I'm a cylinder head designer here at Edelbrock. I designed these heads. These are our Edelbrock Duramax cylinder heads. This is going to be for your LBZ motor.
Get my fingers stuck in there. Man, that's awesome.
There we go. Edelbrock Duramax heads. This head gives you more power potential for your motor. The ports that I've designed flow about, on the intake side, about 20% more than stock.
Wow.
But maintain the swirl ratio that we want.
Yeah.
And on the exhaust side, it's like 25% more than stock. So basically we make like one casting and we make 4 versions out of it. And those 4 versions cover 2001 all the way up through 2017.
It's really good design work. I know we talked about it a little bit before this, but our goal is to take our 5th gen Camaro, stuff in that Duramax, and we're gonna try and make as much power as we can to go 200 miles per hour.
All right.
That's kind of our goal.
I like it.
We want to throw a bunch of boost at this thing.
We've done some things specifically to the casting to help the casting survive, right? This is like a serious amount of power you guys are gonna be making to do 200 miles per hour in the standing mile.
Yeah.
We took some steps to make that happen. One is thickening up the deck in it to help it live under that high cylinder pressure.
Right.
Another one, the casting itself, we made it out of A356 aluminum, which is high grade, great aluminum alloy. We hipped the heads, and hip stands for hot isostatic press.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, we changed the heat treat on it. So we went from T6 and we did T7. T7 is an overaging process. So that overaging process is gonna bring some more dimensional stability to the casting. So when we machine it, it's more stable. That T7 overaging process really helps with creep in the material and prevents anything like that from happening.
And that could be something that's kind of hard to find too.
We've done some stuff. Let's turn this around here. And if we look at the valve layout, right, we've got intake valves and exhaust valves here. So we moved a pair of intakes towards the center a little bit, and then a pair of exhausts towards the center a little bit. So what that does is, if you imagine on this, you've got the fire ring and the gasket and the bore, it unshrouds the things a little bit, and it lets us put a really big seat in it. So if you can see how big that seat is compared to the valve, it's gonna allow the customer or you guys or whomever to get after these heads with some big valves in them and some port work if you want to.
If you want to do more.
If you want to do more.
It's ready to go.
You got it.
Well, thanks, Matt. I mean, I learned so much today that I didn't know before, and also even more about your process, which is really cool. So we're going to take this back to the donut garage, compare it to our stock head, and we'll see the difference. So one of the first things you notice between the stock head versus the Edelbrock head is the springs. You can see pretty clearly that the springs are changed out. The Edelbrock head uses pack beehive springs, and it's actually able to retain the stock rocker bridge spacing. So you can use the same rocker, you don't have to upgrade that unless you want to down the road. The other thing to note, which is a huge deal for cooling, is this raised valley for more water. This raised deck here can hold a lot more water, which is gonna be cooler in the long run, and cooler is a lot better in a diesel. And then the last thing that you can see on top here are the rocker bosses. So these rocker bosses are larger and reinforced, they're helicoiled. So the helicoil is a lot stronger than just a regular tapped machine head, kind of reduce some of the risk of losing your rockers. So one of the things you notice with the bottom of the head is the valves are different. These valves on the Edelbrock head are unshrouded, which allows for bigger seats, and if you wanted to, potentially bigger valves. So if you want to make more power, you can throw a bigger valve in there and make a lot more power. Pretty cool that that's already done. Also, the intake valves have moved 1.5 millimeter this direction, and the exhaust valves have moved 1 millimeter that direction. So that allows a little bit more airflow, which you can't really see. It's kind of hard to see, but it's pretty cool. All right, this is pretty simple to see. On the intake side, you see these are very small, straight out. It's not good for intake airflow. Look at this, bell mouth. It's really nice, it's a lot bigger. Obviously, that's gonna take in a lot more air and a lot smoother. It won't be disrupted on the way in. That's all we want. So on the exhaust side, it's kind of hard to see down in here. The factory style has dump ports, which is like a real common log style. Inside the Edelbrock head, there is two very smooth ports that join together for better airflow. So the exhaust is going to be a little bit more free flowing, and we can turn the boost up, and that's what we want. So the last thing I want to talk about, which is not easy to visibly see, this is a bit heavier than the factory one, and the reason is that's more dense. It's the way it's cast and the process that they use to finish this head. So it was cast from A356 aluminum, and it's been hipped, and internally they can cut away a lot more material because it's stronger. If you were to cut that material away from this one, it would have a big tendency to crack. It's not going to work for us because we want to throw a lot more power at it. So that extra material just being able to be removed makes a very, very big difference in the strength overall. So that's why we chose the Edelbrock head. Yeah, it's pretty simple.
In case you missed our plan, is to take a ratty 5th-gen Camaro, stuff in a diesel Duramax, and try and propel it to 200 mile an hour in the standing mile. We're gonna bring in some experts from Edelbrock, PPE, and I'm sure there'll be others along the way, because I can't do this alone. Over the course of this show, we know we're gonna struggle. We have a lot to figure out. So one problem we already know is that's a big, big diesel V8. Not supposed to be in that engine bay. It's gonna be really hard to fit everything. Going 200 miles an hour, you have to have a lot of power to push through that air barrier. Suspension's gonna have to change. The weight of the motor is insane. It's probably 600 pounds more than the V6 that's in there. Another thing is the balance of the car. When you're going at that high of a speed, it can't just be too nose heavy. We gotta balance out the rear. So adding a 900-pound motor to the front, we're gonna have to put some kind of ballast or aerodynamics to hold the rear down, to put the power down. Otherwise, we're just gonna spin tires the whole time. Safety's gonna have to be above and beyond. Way better than last season, because if you lose it at 200 miles an hour, you have real problems. Really good cage, parachutes, window nets, fire suppression, everything.